Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura.
She said that if there was a time when you were getting beat up in a room and couldn't walk out, you would reimagine it in a way that you were actually able to leave the room.
You were in the courtroom. I want to get your sense of how the jury was reacting to Cassie's testimony throughout the week, especially
when old love messages resurface and collide with 4 days of intense and chilling testimony. The courtroom atmosphere turns electric. Cassie's shocking allegations, detailing wild sex parties and a brutal assault, have taken center stage, leaving everyone stunned. As the revelations unfold, Diddy appears visibly shaken, struggling to maintain his composure amid the mounting pressure and public scrutiny. The contrast between the past intimacy and the current accusations is painting a dramatic and deeply unsettling picture.
Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is set to retake the stand and face what we expect to be her final round of questioning under cross-examination. Court currently is on a short lunch break, but if you recall, the judge previously said that he wanted Ventura's cross-examination to wrap up before lunch today. Prosecutors have said that Ventura, who's nearly 9 months pregnant, could soon go into labor.
Over the last hour, the defense has been asking Ventura more about her 2018 rape allegation against Combs, Ventura's drug use, her mental health problems, and a 2014 threat that she made to a man who claimed he had seen a sexually explicit tape of her, also raised in court. The defense at one point asking Ventura, quote, "Do you still have love for him?" referring to Combs, and Ventura answered by saying, quote, "I have love for the past and what it was."
Cassie Ventura, the ex-girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs, is expected to retake the stand for what is likely her final round of cross-examination. Court is currently on a brief lunch break, although the judge had previously expressed a desire for Ventura's testimony to conclude before the recess. Prosecutors have emphasized the urgency, noting that Ventura is nearly 9 months pregnant and could go into labor at any moment. During the past hour, the defense is focused on Ventura's 2018 rape allegation against Combs, questioning her about past drug use, mental health struggles, and a 2014 incident in which she allegedly threatened a man who claimed to have seen a sexually explicit tape of her. At one point, the defense asked Ventura, "Do you still have love for him?" To which she calmly responded, "I have love for the past and what it was."
Right when they say that Cassie Ventura is the most critical witness to this case. The defense is doing its job because what they're trying to do is bring out that she's not a perfect person, that they're saying she might have wanted to engage in these freak-offs on more than one occasion, that she was willingly staying in this relationship with Sean Combs even though she knew that it was an abusive one. They're bringing out things that she said to other people that are less than flattering. All that being said, the government doesn't need to have a perfect victim. What the government has done this week essentially is establishing the sex trafficking crimes that they've charged Sean Combs with. And I would argue that they are well on their way to proving these crimes. A lot of people don't realize that with sex trafficking, you don't have to have movement anywhere. You don't have to go across state lines. A lot of times people confuse it with human smuggling. Here, somebody can be trafficked in their own home. All you really need is someone providing somebody else for that commercial sex act. And when I say commercial, I mean anything of value, not even necessarily money, to be given by force or coercion. And so Cassie Ventura has done her job this week for the government, and now the defense is doing its job to try to make it seem as if she wanted to be in this relationship and that what happened in those freak-offs was not coerced.
Cassie Ventura's testimony sent shockwaves through the courtroom, silencing even the most seasoned observers. This wasn't a simple recounting of a troubled relationship. It was something far more harrowing. At the heart of her allegations were what she called freak-off parties, private events she claimed were orchestrated by Sean Diddy Combs, where she was allegedly coerced into participating in acts against her will. These were not typical Hollywood gatherings filled with glitz and glamour, she explained, but rather highly controlled environments designed for Diddy's and his guests' entertainment. Cassie said she was pressured into attending these parties early in their relationship, quickly realizing that refusal was not an option. According to her, Diddy dictated what she wore, how she behaved, and even who she interacted with, painting a disturbing picture of coercion and exploitation. To the outside world, their relationship appeared to be a glamorous love story, lavish trips, red carpets, and public displays of affection. But in court, Cassie peeled back the curtain to reveal what she described as years of manipulation and control that began within the first week of dating. She testified that participation in these parties was framed as the price of being with him. The courtroom was gripped with tension as she recounted degrading experiences, with audible gasps from the gallery. According to Cassie, the parties were attended by powerful men and women expected to comply without question. The rules were unspoken but understood. Don't resist, don't speak out, just do what's expected. For prosecutors, this testimony marked a turning point in the case. They argued it demonstrated a clear pattern of dominance and control, aimed at eroding Cassie's autonomy and keeping her trapped in a relationship. It wasn't about isolated moments of abuse, they said. It was about systematic, calculated manipulation. Then came the most devastating revelation. Cassie testified that at one of these events, Diddy allegedly instructed her to engage in sexual acts with others while he watched. She described feeling completely dehumanized and powerless, calling those moments the darkest of her life. The emotional weight of her testimony was undeniable. The room grew heavy with tension, and even Diddy appeared visibly unsettled as the allegations were laid bare. Observers exchanged stunned glances, struggling to process the deeply unsettling details. But this was far from the end. The prosecution hinted that Cassie's claims weren't just words, they had evidence to support them. Briefly mentioned was surveillance footage from a 2016 incident that could lend further credibility to her account. As the courtroom braced for what was to come, the anticipation was palpable. Cassie's testimony had left an indelible mark, changing the course of the case and forcing everyone to confront a side of Diddy that had long remained hidden from public view.
In the courtroom, I want to get your sense of how the jury was reacting to Cassie's testimony throughout the week, especially the pictures and the texts that they got to see so far.
Well, I was in the overflow room today, but the consensus about the jury is that they've been pretty stoic. There was one juror who seemed to have a bit of a reaction when they were shown sealed photos. I believe it was about 2 days ago. These were freeze frames of Cassie and Sean Combs and an escort in an alleged freak-off still shots. So there was a little bit of a reaction there. But again, overall, the consensus also in the overflow room is just that people are shocked at a lot of this testimony, a lot of the evidence that's coming in, and it's tough. We are seeing, I guess, just like this side of Cassie that, unfortunately she's had to disclose to all of us to help get a conviction for Sean Combs. And you really feel for her because she's remained so composed throughout, her cross-examination, her the redirects, and she's 8.5 months pregnant, and we didn't see her lose her temper or just get, angry at all or frustrated. And I find that to be.
The courtroom fell into a heavy silence as the prosecution played surveillance footage tied to a 2016 assault, now considered a pivotal piece of evidence in Cassie Ventura's case against Sean "Diddy" Combs. Until that point, much of the trial had hinged on Cassie's testimony and detailed allegations, but the introduction of visual evidence added a new level of gravity. The video served as a powerful anchor to her claims, something tangible that couldn't be dismissed as mere hearsay. Its presence shifted the courtroom's tone completely. No longer was this just her word against his. Now there was undeniable footage that backed her story. According to Cassie, the 2016 assault was one of the most terrifying moments in their relationship, when Diddy's anger, which she alleged often turned physical, escalated beyond what even she believed possible. She described being cornered, berated, and physically harmed, an incident she said perfectly embodied the abusive dynamic they shared. Her words painted a harrowing picture, but the video made it even harder to refute. The prosecution wasted no time highlighting how the footage aligned with her timeline and supported her account in vivid, corroborating detail. Though not released to the public, those in the courtroom described it as clear and compelling, offering a glimpse into the trauma Cassie said she endured. She testified that the incident left her both emotionally shattered and physically vulnerable. For the jury, the combination of her heartfelt testimony and this stark visual evidence created a strong sense of credibility. Observers noted visible discomfort among the defense team as the prosecution leaned into the strength of the footage, which directly contradicted their efforts to portray the relationship as tumultuous but consensual. Prior to this turning point, Diddy's legal team had focused on downplaying Cassie's claims, framing their relationship as complicated but mutual. However, the footage told a different story, one of control, aggression, and fear. It added substantial weight to the prosecution's narrative and undercut the defense's strategy in a way that no testimony alone could. Courtroom reactions varied. but the jury's focus was unshakable. Some leaned forward with tense expressions, others exchanged glances as they processed the disturbing images. For those present, it was a stark reminder of how crucial visual evidence can be in a trial of this magnitude. Still, the defense sought to mitigate the footage's impact by attacking its contents. They argued the video lacked full perspective and questioned whether it fairly represented the overall nature of Cassie and Diddy's relationship. Their strategy pivoted toward discrediting Cassie, suggesting that isolated incidents shouldn't define years of their time together. Legal analysts pointed out that while this argument required careful handling, it also risked appearing dismissive of credible evidence now etched into the jury's memory. The emotional power of the footage, coupled with Cassie's prior testimony, was difficult to ignore. In a surprising countermeasure, the defense introduced affectionate messages Cassie had sent to Diddy after their breakup, hoping to shift perceptions of the relationship's happening. Whether this tactic would succeed remained uncertain, but it marked a notable shift in approach, an attempt to complicate the narrative and cast doubt on Cassie's claims of sustained abuse. However, by the time the prosecution concluded their presentation of the video evidence, it was clear that the defense had taken a significant hit. The courtroom was tense, the stakes had been raised, and all eyes were now on how Diddy's legal team would respond to what many were calling one of the most explosive moments of the trial.